I'm Jo Reingold, and I'm interviewing Liz Liener, and today is June 16th, 2020.
17th.
And Liz, tell us a little bit about your family, what you know of your parents, your grandparents, where they used to live, where they were from, and if applicable, how they got to Dallas and why they settled here.
Okay. My father is native-born Dallasite. I'm actually third generation on my father's side of native Dallasite. And as far as I know, his grandfather was a Russian Bolshevik, and he came to the United States, I don't know what year, but certainly before World War II. And he started out as a peddler on the streets of Highland Park. He had a little push cart and was selling produce, and had a little bell that he would ring going up and down the streets. My father still has that bell, not the push cart. And on my mother's side, her father came from Warsaw in the 1920s. And so I think she grew up in Kansas City and moved to Dallas, Fort Worth when she was a child. And let's see, so besides Polish on my mother's side, I think my maternal grandmother's mother was born in England. Don't know her story about getting here. And on my father's side, it's Lithuanian and Russian, as far as I know. So I'm 100% Ashkenaz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back up for just a minute and tell us, if you know, why did they pick Dallas, both sides? I mean, how did they end up here of all places? Do you know?
I don't know on my dad's side why. I know on my mother's side, she grew up in Kansas City and she kept getting pneumonia. And the doctor up there in Kansas City said, you need to move to a warmer climate. And my grandmother's sister lived in Fort Worth. So they initially moved to Fort Worth. And eventually, I'm not sure what drew them to Dallas, but they made it over to Dallas. And my mother went to Hillcrest. She was, I think, in one of the very first. She moved from Thomas Jefferson over to Hillcrest. So she was one of the first classes when the school opened up.
Oh, wow. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So as a child, what did you like to do? Where did you live? What was your neighborhood like?
I lived in Preston Hollow. My parents are still in the same house after 60 years, over 60 years. Very near Temple Emmanuel. I went to Preston Hollow Elementary School, E.D. Walker for 8th grade, Hillcrest High School for high school. And, you know, as everybody did back then, no cell phones. We rode bikes a lot. We went swimming at each other's houses or the JCC, just hung out. Very innocent time, I guess, sort of. What was the other question? What did I do? What was it?
Well, just what did you like to do for amusements, and also what kind of things were you involved in?
Well, in high school, I joined BBYO. So I was very involved. I was in Jenny Shep's BBG. I was a nom for Levi Eshkol. Neither of those chapters are in existence today. But yeah, I don't, let's see, I grew up in North Park. That's still my sweet spot. Love to go to North Park.
What affiliations did your family have? Were you part of a synagogue? Were they members of any particular organization when you were growing up?
I grew up at Sheriff Israel. Although half my family on my dad's side went to Temple Emmanuel. So I hung out a lot at Temple Emmanuel, but Sheriff was my primary. I went to religious school all the way. I was in preschool there, and I went all the way through high school. I know my parents my dad worked really hard in the grocery business, so they were not particularly active in the Jewish community. So that kind of, my grandfather on my dad's side, his father was a city councilman. He was very civic minded. He was on the city council when they broke ground at DFW Airport. There's a picture of that in my parents' home. And he was on the grand jury a couple of times. He was involved with a lot of civic organizations.
That was my next question. That's good.
Yeah.
What were your memories of Sunday school and Hebrew school?
I liked it. Yeah, really, I enjoyed it. I went to Hebrew school Monday, Wednesday afternoons, and on Saturday. There were these twin girls who used to beat me up a lot. I won't mention their name. That set fire to one of the classrooms at Shiloh Israel at my bat mitzvah party.
Oh my
But
God.
you know, we lost touch. Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed it. Mark Shore was one of my teachers, and Steve.
Guto?
Yes, Guto. They were my teachers in high school, two main teachers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I learned how to read Hebrew. Didn't learn how to speak it really. I learned all the prayers. Yeah, typical. Had a bat mitzvah, which consisted of being there on Friday night, giving a speech about the Haftorah. So, yeah, it was not what it is today, but I had a bat mitzvah.
Right.
And I was married at Shiloh Israel, and but you know, we moved on. When I got married, we kind of moved in a different direction religiously. So
I was going to ask you what you did right after high school. What was your life like after that?
I went to college. I went to University of Texas at Austin. Majored in computer science. I was in Delta Phi Epsilon sorority when I was at school. Loved UT, loved Austin, wanted to stay there like most kids do when they graduate. But I came back to Dallas and I started working for a Swedish company called Ericsson. And I worked in telecom for about 17 years. And doing first computer programming and then more systems design and things like that. But it was great. I used to travel to Sweden a lot.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
That was nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
So when and where did you meet your husband, and how has your family grown since then?
So I met Robert at my cousin's wedding. So Robert is 3 years older than me, and he and I knew so many of the same people, but we did not know each other. Knew my sister and my cousin Sherry Tobias Shadlovsky. At her wedding, I met Robert. It's the last time I had a suntan, and I guess he liked it. So he asked me. He asked me out, and we were engaged after 9 months. So I was dating a couple other guys at the same time. So he had to kind of wait his turn.
Great. It was worth it, right?
For him, of course. He married no, just kidding.
And how has your family grown, your immediate family?
Grown in what sense?
With children and
Okay,
where they are. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we have 3 children. Our oldest is Aaron, and he is 29 years old, and he went to University of Texas at Austin also. He lives in Dallas, and he works with Robert in the business, which is A&A Optical, which is a family business that Robert's father and mother started. Mm-hmm. And Aaron has worked there for a number of years. And Benjamin is our middle one. He's 26. He lives in Chicago. He went to Indiana University and worked for Merrill Lynch in Chicago. He's been here for about 6 weeks because of the coronavirus, but he is going back in about 10 days. And Sarah, our youngest, is 18, and she just graduated from Yavna. She hopes that she'll be doing a gap year in Israel next year, depending on how the virus goes. And she plans to attend the University of Michigan to study kinesiology.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Back to your work. Can you think of a memorable project that you worked on that you're very proud of? It doesn't have to be with Ericsson, but in general, something that you were really, really proud of that you accomplished.
I've been involved with a number of boards over the years. But I think the one thing that was not really board related was I actually wrote a memoir about Marcus Rosenberg. That's this one right here.
Oh, beautiful.
And Marcus was not living at the time that I was commissioned to write the book. But I did interview 100 people, family and work associates and friends, and wrote this book. And it the publishing of the book coincided with the 50th anniversary of Akiba Academy. He was the founder of Akiba. And I really enjoyed that process, and maybe this is something that will outlive me, you know. So I enjoy that very much.
That's
I know
truly
more
something to be
about
proud
the.
of.
Hmm?
I said that's truly something to be proud of. A memoir.
I know more about his family than mine, sadly.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What are you and your husband, or separately, involved in the Jewish community at this time, presently, and also if you're involved in any civic activities, either both of you or one of you?
So Robert, mainly his board experience has been with our synagogue, Shiloh Tefilah. He was a board president, and he's still involved on several committees with the synagogue. And that's primarily, you know, he works full time, so
Right.
that was his big thing. And I have been involved. I started working on the board at Akiba, and I was a board chair in the late 2000, like 2007 to 2009. And not long after that, I got on the JCC board, and I got on the Dallas Jewish Historical Society board, and I'm also on the Legacy Senior Communities board. So I'm currently active on 3 boards.
Okay.
And so,
With any of that activity, is there somebody that you can think of in particular that you would consider a mentor to you?
I try and learn from, I mean, I don't mean to sound hokey, but I try and learn from everybody because, you know, everybody has different approaches and we can always improve ourselves. I really admire the leadership of all 3 of the agencies that I'm involved with. Deb Polsky at the Historical Society and Melissa Orth over at the Legacy and Artie Allen at the J. They're wonderful to work with, and I always learn from them. Every time we get together, I learn something from them.
Wonderful. Okay. Since you're a native of Dallas, tell us a little bit about comparing what Dallas was like during your childhood versus how it is now, that you, from your eye, through your eyes.
Through my eyes. I mean, it seems smaller. I mean, it was geographically smaller. My grandfather had a motorboat out at Lake Louisville. We used to call it Lake Dallas. Mm-hmm. And we would drive out there on the weekends. My father would take Preston Road all the way up. Didn't want to go on the highway. And when we got to Beltline in Preston, that's where civilization ended. And the rest of it was farmland, pastures. And so, yeah, Dallas has really grown into a very metropolitan, cosmopolitan city. It's very big. I look at my daughter, she just finished 4 years at BBYO. And these kids are out in Frisco, they're out in Plano. I mean, it's big, very big. I feel like we were maybe a little more closely knit. Also, I went to Hillcrest, which had a very large Jewish population at that time. So I always had non-Jewish friends, but lots of Jewish friends too, both in high school and in BBYO.
Specifically, how would you say the Dallas Jewish community has changed? Besides size we know about, but anything else related to that?
It's become much more diverse. We certainly have an Orthodox community here that we did not have growing up. We couldn't keep a single kosher restaurant in business when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. And now, you know, there's a lot of kosher caterers, kosher establishments. And like I said, a number of Orthodox communities between Or HaTorah, Ohev Shalom, all the Chabad houses, and then my synagogue, Shiloh Tefilah. So that aspect, I'm trying to think. We don't have that many more conservative and Reform congregations, but we have definitely a lot more Orthodox synagogues.
What led you and Robert to be the most comfortable at Shiloh Tefilah?
I think when we put our kids into Akiba, we started becoming friendly with families there. It was a long process. We lived 18 years out Frankfurt and Preston, And I got so tired of driving back and forth, 3 times a day. So we moved south of LBJ. We live in what they call the South Aru. Well, we were at Tifereth Israel for a long time, and then they lost their rabbi. And we also ended up moving into the neighborhood very close to Shiloh Tefilah, where we had a lot of friends. So we decided to join Shiloh Tefilah. And Robert, that's kind of didn't take very long after that he got on the board and began, serving as president.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also Robert's sister is ultra Orthodox, and that probably had a little impact on us, although we're nowhere close to the level of observance that she is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Besides your book about Marcus Rosenberg, is there anything else that you can point to that you are the most proud of?
Just my family, I guess. I love working in the community, and I represent a demographic that, I'm a native Dallasite. I grew up conservative, and now I'm modern Orthodox. So I think on some of these boards, I might be like, one of maybe 1 or 2 people that fit that demographic. So if you want diversity on the board, I mean, that's kind of nice. So I enjoy that. But I can't point to any other accomplishments. Joe, I don't know.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else about your family that we did not cover that you'd like to talk about?
Can't think of anything, really.
Any nice Jewish girls you want your sons?
Yeah, well,
And,
my middle one has a girlfriend now. She's
Okay.
from Dallas,
Oh,
and she's Jewish. They did not know each other. They met in Chicago at Merrill Lynch.
oh, that's funny.
But yeah, we've met her over the coronavirus break. She's very sweet. And she met one of my friends over the break. My daughter threw a little mini surprise party for me in the backyard a few weeks ago. So my son's girlfriend was there, and I introduced her to a friend of mine who also had a mask on. And my friend is South African, and she opened her mouth, and my son's girlfriend said, "Oh my God, you were my bat mitzvah teacher," and she was. So it's really small world. But if you know somebody from my oldest son, that'd be great. 29.
Right. Okay. Good. I'll think
Nice
about
young
it.
man.
I'll
Okay.
think about it. If somebody was to ask you why they should or should not relocate to Dallas, what would you say to them?
Oh, I would say come on down. No taxes, no state taxes, good economy, nice warm weather, warm winters or temperate, great Jewish life. Every night of the week, there's at least one thing to do. And most of the time it's multiple things to do in the Jewish community, for sure. And culture here, post coronavirus, when we go back to normal again.
Yeah. Okay. So Liz, this is your last chance if you'd like to add anything at all, anything in general.
I love the Dallas Jewish Historical Society. And I thank you, Joe, for everything that you do for this agency. Very important. I don't have anything else.
Okay.
It's just burning in my mind. I think I might be a little too young for this.
No,
Even
never.
though I got in the early senior hours at Target this morning.
We're trying very hard to actually reach people of all ages at this point. It's not just for the elderly anymore. So
Okay,
thank
I
you.
know.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we appreciate it very much, your time and your energy and all the work that you do. Kol hakavod, and thank you so much for interviewing with me.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Okay.